All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start with our keynote presentation by Nick Espinosa. Nick is an expert in cybersecurity and network infrastructure. He has consulted with clients ranging from small businesses up to the Fortune 100 level for decades. Nick founded Windy City Networks Incorporated in 1998, and at age 19 was acquired in 2013. In 2015, Security Fanatics, a cybersecurity, cyber warfare outfit dedicated to designing custom cyber defense strategies for medium to enterprise corporations, was launched. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and have Nick up on stage. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Oh, come on now. Good morning, everybody. Damn right. All right. I am Nick Espinosa. I am the Chief Security Fanatic of Security Fanatics. We do all things cybersecurity, cyber warfare, cyber terrorism, infrastructure, and government compliance related, as well as make speakers hum. And so I'm not going to go through my bio. Thank you for the introduction and all of that. Just a couple of interesting things that we're doing at Security Fanatics. We've basically been actively involved since day one in the war in Ukraine. And so that has been all kinds of interesting. And we're also working with the United Nations to help basically developing countries build cyber defense strategies. These are the countries where we go on vacation, sit on the beach, and get our credit cards ripped off. So you're welcome for that. So with that, today we're going to be talking about the dark web. Please feel free to ask questions. I don't bite. I'm fun at parties, even though my job makes me a Debbie Downer. So with that, let's get started. And I love to start with the state of the world today, because I think we need to understand what we are walking into. And if you are a future cybersecurity nerd such as myself, understand this is what you're walking into when you enter the workforce. First things first, 55% of enterprise, meaning the larger companies, are seeing 10,000 cybersecurity alerts a day. These are attempts at phishing, these are attempts at breaking in, these are IOCs or indicators of compromise. This is a huge problem, and almost a third of them see 1 million cyber alerts every single day. We work with one of the 3 largest financial institutions on the entire planet, and every single quarter they see 250 million attempts to get into their networks, their infrastructure, phishing, all these kinds of things. That's over 1 billion attempts every single year. This is what we're dealing with. This is the landscape that we are living in. This is the landscape Cal Poly's in, that every company out there is in. My company's in. Your grandma's in if she's got internet, and you're probably her tech support. Not fun, I know, I've been there. On top of it, at the beginning of the pandemic, we saw a lens of every criminal and jerk hacker out there using COVID-19 as a lure. It was unprecedented in cybersecurity history. I was the chief spokesperson for the COVID-19 Cyber Threat Coalition. That was over 4,000 cybersecurity individuals in every single time zone on the planet looking at IOCs or indicators of compromise every single day. We were sifting through 100 million, but when we were looking at basically domains spun up, fake websites, 5,000 a day at the height of the pandemic. Can't find toilet paper? Click here. Can't find PPE? Click here. Didn't get your government stimulus check? Click here. This is what they do. Nothing scientific about it. You can go to Google Trends and see what's going on, and that's what they're going to fish. It's really that straightforward. But this is the state of the world. As of 2021, only 42% of organizations are looking to adopt zero trust strategies. Understand that most networks in the world are built using 30-year-old design. We use the concept of trust but verify. And so that is antiquated. For me to trust means I get a foothold into something while you verify me. Now we're doing verify, then trust. But think about this. The United Nations had a survey out roughly the same time that said, while 100% of governments understand that we have a serious problem with cybersecurity and hitting those governments, only half of them have a plan, let alone an execution. And these are the infrastructures that run entire societies. This is where we're at with cybersecurity. This is a huge problem. The biggest issue we've got is that we're burning out at the top levels. I wrote an article for Forbes back in late 2022. I publish a lot. And by virtue of that, we looked at the stats. The stats are alarming. About 1/3 of my veteran colleagues want to quit and go run puppy daycares or sit on the beach or something because we're not getting funding, we're not getting staff. You want a good job coming out of college? Go into cybersecurity, because even if you suck at it, we'll hire you. And then we'll train you and you'll get better. I promise you that. So cybersecurity is job security. Let's put it that way. So with that, let's talk about what we're gonna be talking about today. First things first, we're gonna talk about the various ways that we basically get hit and our data gets onto the dark web. On top of that, we're gonna talk about what the dark web actually is. I'm gonna be taking you to the dark web. I've pulled up some dark web sites like 10 minutes ago before we started this presentation, so we're gonna demystify this, and you're gonna see actual live leak data as it stands right now, as well as marketplaces, et cetera, et cetera. So we're gonna explore that, and then obviously, if I'm showing you all of this, we're gonna talk about defending ourselves, and obviously more. And feel free to ask questions. I think I'm a pretty personable guy. You tell me. So, with that, how on earth do we keep getting hacked? Really, it's this simple. They're always looking for ways. One of my most viral things I did was actually an article for Forbes, and I turned into my second of 4 TED Talks called The 5 Laws of Cybersecurity. Law number 1 is everything is vulnerable. No, I'm sorry, law number 1 is if there's a vulnerability, it will be exploited. I should know my own laws. Number 2 is everything is vulnerable in some way. What is the hacker's mentality? We are trying to break into absolutely everything we can get our hands on. We are trying to break the system. And we all do it in some way, shape, or form, whether we're trying to be hackers or not. You have a 1 in 6 chance in the United States, a 1 in 6 chance of getting caught for speeding in your car. How many of you speed? The rest of you are lying. We all do it. We're hacking the system. And this is what we do on the technological side. Every single car I've owned since 2006, the Bluetooth era, I have broken into. And we are talking about basic cars to luxury cars. I hit them all. Every stupid smart gadget I get, I try to break into. I have a live hacking demonstration with an Amazon Alexa. They're easy to hit. This is what we do. This is what we love to do. So understand, if there's new and innovative ways, not just to break into your life, but to extract cash from you in some way, shape, or form, whether it's stealing your data or your bank account, they're gonna do it. So think about this. Phishing is the most common thing, and we're gonna talk about phishing after we go to the dark web, because this actually is many-faceted. Everybody knows the emails from Prince Ubuntu from Nigeria, but there's a heck of a lot more that goes into this. On top of it, technology. And why do we get hacked through technology? We trust. We trust the infrastructure around us. We trust the environment around us. That wireless is there for us to use when literally there are live hacking demonstrations of wireless in this building right now. We trust. It gets us into trouble every time. On top of it, compromising, not just phishing. We don't have good cyber hygiene. And while most people in this room are going to be on the technical side, at least that's what I've been told, there are a lot of people out there that are completely computer illiterate. When I built the 5 laws of cybersecurity, I had my mother in mind. She is the most technologically illiterate person on the face of the earth. I dare you to prove me wrong. And guess who her tech support is? My wife. So with that, let's get started because we've got things to do. So the dark web is a nightmare, and not just for corporations, for individuals and everybody else. But first things we need to understand is the deep web. Can somebody here tell me what the deep web is? Lay it on me. It's like what now? Database. So you're in the ballpark. What's your name, sir? Andrew. Can I right now, if I knew your full name, go to Google, type in your name, and figure out what your bank account is, and your bank's going to show me to the penny what you have in your account? Are they going to let me do that? No? You would hope not. And if your bank does, please switch banks immediately. Like leave and switch. Right. He's right. That's all it is. The deep web is simply the area of which is 96% of the entire flippin' internet, by the way. Like 94, 96% is the deep web, is areas you can't search. Cal Poly is going to have a library. It's going to be online. You need student access to get to it. I can't Google the articles in the Cal Poly library or any other university. I can't go and look up his bank account information because banks keep that private. Medical information is kept private. That's the deep web. It's places that areas that basically Google, Yahoo, the 6 people that use Bing, basically you can't see it. That's it. And in there resides the dark web. No offense to Microsoft if they're here, by the way. Please don't revoke my licensing. Anyway, so it's pretty easy to get to, the dark web. You can download a browser, you can usually Google the top sites, although there is no real Google for the dark web, but there are actual real caveats that we'll talk about trying to get there as well. So if you're playing around, you're playing with fire. On top of it, we have many facets to this. So obviously, we know the basics. Personal information, selling and buying, I'm gonna show you some of that today. On top of it, counterfeit currencies and passports. You wanna be a citizen of, I don't know, North Korea for some reason. It costs you about $500. US is about 2,000, EU is about 1,500 or so, going rates at the moment. Counterfeit currency is usually about 2% on the dollar, so $10,000 will cost you, what is that, 200 bucks? You know, to get in actual currency, and it's usually passable, not for the readers, but you go to 7-Eleven, you could totally do that. Bye, Billy Bronco, it was nice to meet you earlier. On top of it, we've got all kinds of trafficking, narcotics, weapons, you name it, et cetera, et cetera. You want to buy the best drugs, they're actually in the dark web, although I'm not showing you that today, students. And obviously, the good thing we've got is dissidents. We have a lot of autocratic and authoritarian regimes out there, and as the dissidents are coordinating against their government, whatever those actions are, they find haven in the dark web because it's harder to track them, harder to trace. That said, every flippant intelligence agency on the planet worth its salt is also in the dark web looking for everybody else, including you trying to buy drugs online. So heads up, you never know what you're getting. And so with that, everybody basically has been exposed in some way, shape, or form. If you're an American citizen with a social security number and you were born before 2017, you can thank Equifax for exposing everybody. So understand, this applies to everybody, myself included. Nobody's immune from this, unfortunately. And so with that, entering the dark web. Like I said, it's not that hard, but one, there's a lot of shocking things. So if your sensibilities are your sensibilities, there are places you would never want to go. As I mentioned, intelligence agencies are constantly monitoring the dark web as well. I know because we work with some of them. And on top of it, a lot of places are infected. About half a dozen times every single year, we get a call from one of our clients, usually an executive, that says, my kid was trying to mess around on the dark web on our home computer, and now nothing works in my house. Understand, there's a lot of sites out there that say, oh yes, come buy whatever you want to buy, and they're actually infected. It's really that simple. And so with that, let me show you the dark web, which is why most of you are here anyway. So like I said, you can load up web browsers. Hold on a second. So what we're looking at here is the Play ransomware gang. You may have heard of them in the news. This is their actual leak site. If your business or organization gets compromised by Play, essentially what happens here is they send you a whole bunch of ransomware notes, you can't access anything on your network, and then you get dumped into basically this. These are actual live, right now, companies that have been compromised, and in this case, their data has been published. And this goes back forever and ever and ever. So there is 18 live pages right now of just companies they've hit in the recent era, and I suck with trackpads, I apologize. So, you can see that basically this is here. Now, with that being published, you can actually drill into milk source, which I'm assuming is your source for milk, and then go ahead and you can actually download their data. And part of the negotiation that we have when we're called in, because the number one phone call we get is, oh my God, help, the world is burning down. I've never worked with you, but I saw you on stage or whatever it was. Please help. One of the big things that we are trying to do is string them along. We are trying to string these gangs along as much as we can because they might want from Milk Source $5 million, $1 million, 100,000. It depends on the size of the company. It's all relative to them. And then we try to drag it out as much as we can because we're obviously trying to identify and contain the infection while we're eradicating it, preserving it for evidence, but we're also trying to drag them along to make sure that we've put in better security controls in place. We've filled the gaps. And so this is essentially one of those. This is one of the most prolific gangs. We believe they're out of Russia because Russia turns a blind eye, just like Lockbit. Lockbit is continuously hitting corporations constantly all over the world, and it's pretty unbelievable. So there's CDWG, Computer Discount Warehouse, multi-billion-dollar place. This is the government side of CDWG. And essentially, they say they publish, which means CDWG did not pay the ransom in some way, shape, or form. But it is basically amazing what we've seen hit. One of the ones we're tracking right now that has not been made public, FYI, and we'll see what happens, is State Farm. One of these groups, and I didn't put it in there, one of these groups is basically saying they have 400 million records from State Farm right now, and they're going through negotiations. Another one is American Family Insurance. They're a competitor to State Farm. Anybody here have State Farm? Yeah, well, I'm in your boat too, so we can all suck that one up when that happens. But this is essentially what they do. And it just keeps going and going and going, and it's unbelievable. But you can see, this is what we're talking about. It's pretty straightforward. It's very easy to see. It's demystifying in a bit. On top of it, we have the Clop ransomware gang. These jerks are prolific because of the MOVEit data breach. They've been active. They make about $100 million a year from what we understand. Every single year, just ripping off companies. But if you recall the MOVEit data breach, of which now I think tens of thousands of companies are using this product called MOVEit, which literally just moves things from one place to the other. Very easy. IT was using it for years and years and years. The thing had a massive vulnerability I could teach a third grade class how to break into, and then boom, here we are, thousands of it. And Clop was on it, hitting everything they could possibly hit with MOVEit, getting data everywhere. I do a breaches of the week video and podcast every single week, and for months, every single week I have a MOVEit segment because more and more organizations are declaring. And you can see they hit anybody and everybody. There's PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Siemens is on that list, AbbVie, UCLA, down the street. There we go, because I know UCLA was using MOVEit, FYI. But this is what we're talking about. Kirkland & Ellis, one of the largest law firms in the world, biggest in Chicago too. So these are the things that we're talking about. And essentially, as we drill down, they're going to start leaking whatever data they've captured, providing you basically don't pay the ransom. And what they'll do is they'll leak about 10%. So if they have 10,000 files on you, they'll leak about 100 to prove what they have. You can also send them a file if you're going through the situation, and they'll decrypt it for you to prove that they can decrypt your files. But understand, even if you're paying the ransom, a lot of times things don't come back 100%, especially databases. When they're locking out live databases, they almost never restore right when we unlock them. So this is the issue. The other side of this is basically stolen information. So this is one of the most prolific sellers at the moment on the dark web of stolen credit cards, PayPal accounts, all this kind of stuff. And it's pretty easy to purchase these things. But again, law enforcement's all over these things. So there you go. We can buy PayPal accounts. What they're promising is there will be a balance of about $500 or more US in the account. And for basically $65 US or that amount of Bitcoin, you can buy that account. Now, if you're asking the question, why on earth doesn't this dude just go in and remove the $500 plus from the account, is he's not taking the risk. You are. You're buying this, logging in as this person, and then moving money. This individual, whoever this person is simply validating that they have stolen credentials that actually work to get into this PayPal account, and there's going to be an absolute ton of them. Absolute ton of them. So they've got 74 remaining as of this morning, so act now, just FYI. But this is what we're talking about. On top of it, we have things like stolen credit cards. So you get ripped off by a skimmer at a gas pump, some credit card skimming, attack on a website that you're paying on, et cetera. However they get it, they've got 905 left, and for 20 bucks. Now, the interesting part about this is you can do, like I said, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, whatever it is, but you can also get services that will actually print the cards for you. They'll print the cards, it'll look like an Amex or a Visa or a MasterCard, and you can walk right in and use it, and it's legit. And so for $20, you're getting somebody's credit. And again, why are they selling it when they've got it? Because you're taking the risk. If you're buying this and attempting to use it somewhere else, you're committing a crime. This is a crime too, don't get me wrong, but that's it. And that's essentially the dark web. That's the core of what 95% of most people go to look at. They're going to buy things off of marketplaces. They're going to look for leaked data. And if the data does get out there, they can download them secondarily from these criminals and essentially try to bundle it and resell it. Stolen usernames and passwords. That's how Colonial Pipeline got hit. Stolen username and password, logged in, knocked out the billing system. Didn't touch the pipeline, if you didn't know. They knocked out the billing system. Colonial Pipeline could not figure out how to bill their distributors of the gas, so they just shut the pipeline off. National panic on the eastern side of the country. Outstanding. And so, any questions on this so far? Lay it on me. Andrew, the one person I know here by name.
I thought
Oh, we got it. We got a
Silk
mic
Road-
for you.
I thought Silk Road was shut down by the federal government, wasn't
They've
it?
been shut down about 7 times. They keep popping on
so
back.
They keep coming
They
back.
keep
right?
popping on
Okay.
back. They consider themselves the world's most resilient dark net website.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
cool.
they are still one of the go-to places on the internet or on the dark web, which is why I use them as a demonstration. And Play, Clop, and Lockbit are 3 of the most prolific gangs in ransomware history. And our evil was, yes, sir.
When you're accessing all this, are you wide open? Are you running through?
Oh, I'm letting them know that
VPN
I'm
or-
here at Cal Poly, so they can come find me. No, no.
The
so
sheriffs are right
basically,
outside.
So I have a couple of different things that I've layered in here. One, I've got a personal VPN running, and so my laptop is connecting outside of the country, and then I'm creating a circuit through this web browser, and the circuit basically bounces me through it's called Tor servers all over the place. So I come out wherever I want to come out from, or let them randomly take me out. So right now, we could be in Sri Lanka or something. I don't know. I forgot to check, to be perfectly honest. Yes, sir.
But are these sites just accessible to the public?
So as long as you know where to go, yes. Like we track these gangs. These are one of maybe 200 different gangs that we track. And so yes, short answer is you can go download a browser, you can copy paste and go into these, but the caveat is that a lot of people go searching for this kind of stuff and end up getting on infected sites, or they get infected themselves. We sandbox everything, so heads up. Yes.
Thank you.
Let me pop.
Are you on VPN over Tor or Tor over VPN?
Well, I start with my own VPN, and then I layer Tor on top of that. There we go. All right, one more and then we'll keep rolling.
So you said you do like sandboxing
Yes.
to access it. So I know a little bit about it, but what kind of precautions or steps do you take to do that?
So we have our own array where we've built multiple virtual machines. Also, we have a multiple virtual interactive network as well. And so what I mean by that is we intentionally have a network with honeypots. We'll go to the sites, and then basically the attackers think they're infecting us, and then they'll see the entire array. Most of it is built on Linux. Most of our boxes are Kali Linux as well, because all the tools are there already. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we're big fans of that. And obviously the sites that I've been to here are vetted, right? So I know I'm not getting myself infected. All right, so with that, let's move on. And good questions, by the way, smart questions. Usually I'm in front of non-technical audiences that don't know what to ask, so well done, people. Keep it up. All right, so with that, let's talk about some of the basic things. First things first, you can monitor the dark web. You really can. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And now it's even being integrated into the Googles of the world, where they're basically integrating it into the web browsers. Meaning like you save like your password into the web browser, which I'm not a fan of anyway, but then it'll alert you and say, hey, you've got a problem. And there's a lot of different companies out there for organizations that will look for leaked usernames and passwords and all of that. We do a customized service for our larger clients where we are tracking an absolute ton of these gangs as they're switching sites and changing up. You know, those sites I just showed you, they might change in the next week. Same group, they're switching to evade law enforcement. So we're constantly keeping up with that. But you can actually monitor these things. You can even go to haveibeenpwned.com, punch in your email address and just see how bad the damage is on any email address you have. You know, so make sure that you're checking that out. Make sure you're keeping vigilant on that. You know, one of the biggest problems we have too, especially when you're entering the workforce, is people just tend to use one email address for absolutely everything. While I'm in the office, absolutely a ton. I live and breathe, work, et cetera. Therefore, I'm just going to use my work email address to log into absolutely everything, from Netflix to my bank to, whatever shady site I'm going to. And we're creatures of habit. We tend to use the same passwords over and over. So make sure that you're not doing that as well. It's super important. And same with school as well. Use it for school stuff. But if you're not expecting to have this long term, like I've got personal email addresses through Proton Mail that I use to log in absolutely everything, and so I don't use my corporate accounts for anything other than corporate stuff. On top of it, get good threat detection in your life. It's so unbelievably important. You can get affordable firewalls for your home. You know, businesses and universities should have enterprise level firewalls, endpoint detection response systems. They have ones that are affordable now as well. So you can get that machine or deep learning AI backed endpoint detection response system. Make sure you've got this in your life. It's so unbelievably important. On top of that, multi-factor authentication, and obviously we're moving towards identity access management, conditional access and all of that for those that are technical here, but make sure everything has it. Everything in my life has some kind of multi-factor authentication, usually connected to the ecosystem for my single sign-on for my identity access management, except for like Netflix, and I got kids, so I need Netflix, can't get rid of Netflix. I literally will have my legs broke. There will be a riot in my house if I get rid of that. So, but put it absolutely everywhere. On top of that, complex passwords. I can't tell you how important that is. Easily crackable passwords are like one of the worst things that we see, because even as they're hashed, there are so many places you can go and simply crack the hash. You use Hashcat, there's a whole bunch of different places and things that you can use. And so with that, let's talk about what a good password is. So, and the reason why I bring this up, interestingly enough, and you're gonna think this is, Nick, you're gonna bore me for the next 3 minutes here, trust me. People don't understand passwords. They don't. So with that, how long does it take to crack that password? Now here's the conditions for those of you that know the conditions. We're gonna use the brute force method. I understand there's dictionary, join dictionary, blah, blah, blah. No, we're gonna use brute force. We've got a moderate array, good amount of firepower, not crazy, good amount. And essentially, for brute force, if you don't know, for those who don't know, we're starting at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, 3, 4, all the way up till we start adding numbers, or I'm sorry, letters, uppercase, lowercase, all that. How long do you think it takes to crack that? Anybody? Moderate array, brute force. 10 seconds. Anyone else? Less than a second. I'm sorry, was it? 1 minute? 5 seconds? 0.001 second. Amazingly enough, moderate array, brute force, 2 minutes. 2 minutes on average. Well done, sir. You're halfway there. Everybody else, slow down just a little. Now, how about this one? How long does it take to crack that? 2 minutes? Any other guesses? 5 minutes? 5 hours? Anyone else? 2 minutes. It's the same damn password. 8 characters, 1 uppercase, 1 number. 8 characters, 1 uppercase, 1 number. It don't know the difference. 2 minutes. Now I'm talking to students in cybersecurity, so y'all know it, but the rest of you don't know how to set up a good password. And when I talk in front of non-technical people, they're always mind blown on that. Wrong crowd, I guess. How about this one? How long does it take to crack that? What? 5 minutes? Anyone else? 2 minutes? 3 minutes? 3 minutes? Anyone else? 8 minutes. 10 minutes. You got a guess? 4 minutes? Milliseconds? 2 minutes? 2 years, sorry. Length and an extra character set. Length is your best friend. Insert your own joke here. Length is your best friend. The longer the password, the better it is. It's really that simple. So let's talk about what makes a good password. First things first, 11 to 14 for mobile, 14 to 20 for computers. And if you're thinking, Nick, you are absolutely high if you think I'm putting a 14-character password in my iPhone or my Android. My answer is biometrics. I put my thumb on my Android, it opens right up. I don't see that password, but if my phone is ever lost or stolen, I'm in compliance for all the crazy government compliance stuff that I do. Really that simple. Computer, my laptop, full disk encrypted, not BitLocker, actually full disk encrypted, 30+ character password. It is a phrase from my childhood I will never forget, unless I go senile. And in my house, we spoke English, German, Hungarian, and Spanish, so feel free to figure that one out. It's password 1, just repeated multiple times. That was the phrase I learned as a child. So, 4 character sets. Absolutely 4 character sets. This sucks as a password, even though it's super secure. And do you know why? Because when we do audits of companies and the IT director says, oh, we've got the most amazing password policy, everybody hates it, that's how good it is, what do we see? That password on a Post-it note stuck on the monitor or under the keyboard if they're being sneaky. And yes, we open up keyboards and look too. This is awesome. Exclamation point, you can't touch this, 1990, in homage, for those old enough, to MC Hammer's 1990 smash hit, you can't touch this. And you can't touch his password. How long does it take to crack this one? Throw out a number, somebody. Higher, higher, higher. Quadrillion, man, come on now. Higher, not even close. Higher. Oh, and for the record, there's no such thing as infinity. The sun might burn out and we all might die, but the computer can keep going. FYI, 1 sextillion years to crack. Length is your best friend, hands down. And obviously, don't forget to enable MFA. Don't reuse passwords. And I will say this too, if you are signing up for something secure, like a bank account, and they have limitations on your password, meaning it can only be 8 characters and 3 character sets, don't use that damn bank. And the reason being is they're clearly running older database technology that cannot take more modern hashing. My passwords for my banks are nuts. They're absolutely crazy. They're absolutely insane. So super, super important. But I can't tell you how much multi-factor authentication goes basically just in defending somebody. Yeah. Right. So understand there are a couple caveats with password managers. You got to pick a good one. You know, we recently went through a massive data breach of a big password maker in like the last year or so. Rhymes with smashed pass. Anyway, not a big fan of them. They were using weakened encryption. We found that out. Blah, blah, blah. But understand that if you're using a password manager, one, they've got to be good. They've got to have modern encryption. They have to be transparent about how they apply their encryption. And two, understand that as you are syncing something, let's say from your phone to your laptop, I made a change on my phone, my laptop gets it, my laptop made a change, my phone gets it. It's not a direct connection. It goes from your phone to the cloud to your laptop, or laptop to cloud to phone. Cloud syncs everything. Guess what one of the largest targets for hackers is? Password clouds. Because if I can break one pass, last pass, key pass, knock yourself out, oh my God, game on. I've got passwords for frickin' everybody. That's what happened to LastPass, right? So make sure you've got that. Me personally, I don't use any of that stuff, but just given the complex compliant government work that I do for various agencies around the globe, I have a 3-layered encryption system with 3 unique passwords. All 3 are in my head. And then I've got all my passwords in there. So just understand there are levels, and I'm not expecting anybody to wear the tinfoil hat nearly as much as I do at the moment. So with that, let's talk about the ways we get hit. First things first, 83% per FBI statistics, 83% of phishing is now delivering ransomware. Ransomware is the single biggest issue we've got in terms of damage to infrastructure. Second, interestingly enough, in monetary damage due to business email compromise scams. So, first things first, fake form online. You go to google.com accidentally, there you go. Impersonating help desk. If you ever get pop-ups on your thing that says, oh, anybody needs your help, Microsoft, please call Google. You have a problem, Google says solve it. This is 100% fake, 100% of the time. It is never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, 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 never, ever, ever, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, never, never, ever, never, never, ever, never, ever, never, ever, never real. Try finding an actual support number for Google. It's like unlocking the Da Vinci Code. They don't want to hear from you. Just shut up, use their products, and let them data mine you. That's what they want. This is always fake, 100% of the time. My parents were on vacation years ago, and basically I got a call from my mother, and she said, I don't know what's going on, but your dad is really frustrated, and he's on the phone with Microsoft, and the first 2 words out of my mouth were, oh shit. They got into his Surface, which got them into his computer at home, and I spent all day trying to basically unstick his bank accounts. So understand, this is always fake, all the time. On top of it, spam email. We all know what spam email is. We've seen spam email left and right, everything from Prince Mbutu from Nigeria needs help with his revolution to more sophisticated stuff. Email from friends or spear phishing. You know, hey, I'm stuck, you know, I need money, please send money. We see these things all the time, especially going after grandparents. Grandparents are notoriously targeted for this because grandparents will do anything for their grandkids. Hey, it's Johnny, I'm backpacking through England, I'm stuck, please send $3,000, grandma or grandpa, you know I'm good for it, blah, 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 blah. Grandparents will do anything for their kids. I know that if my two daughters went to my mother and said, I accidentally killed somebody, my mother would say, I have a shovel and I can keep a secret. That's what grandparents do. They will send money every time. So the older generations are targeted specifically because of this. On top of it, we have executive personation. We literally caught a case of a multi-billion-dollar corporation where you could have read in the Financial Times, their CEO flew to China to close a deal on creating like a processing plant, and literally that's when the attackers struck. Sent an email to the controller impersonating the CEO saying, hey, deal is done, send the 10 million deposit over to China, we're good to go, I'll be back in the office next week. And the controller said it's just another day at the multi-billion-dollar conglomerate and sent $10 million to China. They ended up losing about 50 odd million by the time it was caught. Just another day at the multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Understand these things are coming. On top of it, we got fake apps. And we're going to talk about this because we have seen an explosion, and you iPhone people don't think you're off the hook because we hit iPhones all the time too. Single worst vulnerability we've ever seen in a mobile device, Pegasus. Thank you Israelis for that one. And on top of it, we have the dead drop. This is one of my favorite ways to break into organizations where we infect flash drives and we become the flash drive fairy and then sprinkle them in strategic places. And what does a person naturally do? Curiosity kicks in and they pick up the flash drive and say, oh, I wonder what I'm gonna see. Some idiot dropped the flash drive and they walk it through the door, walk it past the firewall, past the defense, and plug it right into the network. We hit a nuclear power plant this way. Dropped flash drive in the parking lot, employee walked it in, plugged it in, we accessed the SCADA system. Could have caused a meltdown in part of the area in the United States that I'm not gonna say. So understand how effective this is. We are curious people by nature. That's who we are, it really is. And so with that, let's talk about apps real quick, because not all apps are built the same. Does this look familiar to anybody? Shout it out, what is this? What? Cars, right? Yeah, Disney's Cars. I mean, it's Disney's Cars. So this is not Disney's Cars, interestingly enough. This is created by a Vietnamese programmer, AKA hacker, and was able to publish this successfully in both iPhone and Google Play, the App Store and Google Play. And basically what it was designed to do was make him money by delivering ads like this. There you go. And so you had hundreds of thousands of downloads for hundreds of thousands of kids that just want to play the Lightning McQueen Steve racing game or whatever the heck it is, and they all got really familiar with Kim Kardashian and others. So FYI. So this obviously is a huge problem. It's hard. Most people do not understand how to basically differentiate one app from the other, especially when it looks like a Disney app and it's Disney, or Microsoft when it's not Microsoft. And so basically we have differing philosophies, for those who know. Apple, in their infinite marketing wisdom, in 2015 created a new vetting and sandboxing software system that said any app development is going to be so stringently checked by Apple that essentially you don't need a third-party threat detection system in your phone. Go ahead and go to Norton, McAfee, Symantec, any one of those basic ones in the App Store and read the fine print. They don't actually hook into the operating system and scan for anything. They don't. But it is harder to basically publish infected apps into the App Store. Android, on the other side, Wild West. But one of the issues with Android is that you can use third-party stores. Like I have a Samsung phone. I can use Samsung's app. Do they have the same vetting system as Google? There's multiple marketplaces out there, but the more infections get through. So making sure you are able to identify the proper apps from who you're trying to get the app from is so unbelievably important. This is a huge problem. We are seeing banking Trojan apps left and right. They look like every single bank you can possibly think of, and they will connect you to your Chase account or your BMO account or whoever you use, and they will steal your credentials, and people will get into your life. It's a huge problem, huge problem. And on top of this, we see abuse of permissions. A colleague of mine was on the team at Internet 2.0 that reverse engineered TikTok. TikTok, I think, is an absolute menace to society. Aside from the fact it's stupid, pointless dancing, and I can see the kids in my neighborhood next to trees doing all this stuff. Like, why, dude, really? But one of the biggest problems is it attempts to evade permissions. It's got tampering in it so that it can't really be scanned. It's looking at things across the wireless. So if you connect it to your home wireless, school wireless, it's scanning the infrastructure, cataloging things. It's a huge problem. But a lot of apps will do this. Now, you might go into the App Store, for example, and in Apple, and Apple has that like cereal box thing that says, oh yeah, we're good. That's self-scored. The privacies are self-scored. Facebook gets to give themselves an A. You get to grade your own term papers. You'd probably do a hell of a lot better if you could. Just saying. This is what we're talking about. And so with that, let's look for the good ones. So they're usually digitally signed. This is the legit one. This right here, under Cars Lightning League, you see that little Disney logo? That's the digital signature for that app. That attacker out of Vietnam could not publish as Disney unless they broke into Disney's account and published on behalf of Disney. It's going to say something else. Microsoft will say Microsoft. Google will say Google, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we're looking for. On top of it, check reviews. The more reviews, the better. You can buy reviews, but most people aren't buying 50,000 plus reviews. That shows you good, bad, and ugly. On top of it, understand what the app does. Does it have permissions? Why does your calculator app need to access your camera or your contacts? So understand that. On top of it, get threat detection. Get web filtering or DNS-based web filters. You all know them, Web Titan, Cisco Umbrella, take your pick. But go ahead and make sure that you're getting those as well. And on top of it, educate everybody. It's so unbelievably important to educate. And I'm going to talk about that shortly here as well. And so with that, let's take a look at email. So first things first, is this real or fake? Microsoft email, high severity alert has been triggered on my account. Real or fake? What? Why is it fake? No, Microsoft will absolutely send this email. Just FYI, yeah. The email? Yeah. Email's wrong. Why is Microsoft going to send something from outside of Microsoft.com? Really? It's that simple. And so with that, here's a Cal Poly example that Chris was nice enough to give me. This is an actual email that a student got. And look at this. It's unbelievable. $600 weekly, so good money for a student. There you go. Look at the very bottom here. Don't use your school email. Why not? Because your school has spam filters, your school has threat detection, your school has anti-phishing in a way that a free email address typically doesn't have. So please, and do you think the esteemed Dr. Emily Danford is going to be on flippin' Hotmail? Really? Like, so many red flags in this. So obviously a thing. It's also not really signed properly. I mean, it's a huge problem. On top of that, Cal Poly sees fake verifications as well. You suddenly have two separate logins. You suddenly have a different issue. What should you do in this case? Anyone? Yeah. Yeah. If you really do have a problem. In the same way that if like Chase Bank sends you an email that says, hey, you have a problem with your Chase Bank account, don't click on the link, go to chase.com yourself. Bookmark it yourself. If there's a problem, they will send you a message in your app. Nick, you're way overdrawn. What the hell, man? We're about to sue you. I wanted a fake mail, right? I get them all the time. Oh yeah. Oh no. So I have a public presence. I get fake messages from Meta all the time. We've deactivated your account because of offensive language. I'm like, dude, I post about cybersecurity every day. Like, there's nothing offensive about what I do. I don't talk politics. I'm not pissing people off, so understand that. So here are some of the key ways, and this is one I've been using for quite some time. Bank of America would not send from Comcast. Jesus, I mean, think about that. Undisclosed recipients, why would they be blind copying people? Dear member, that would be capitalized. Bank of America, the app, if you hover over it, goes to basically a URL shortener. Why? They wouldn't do that to you. All of this is off. And you can see it, you can feel it. If it sounds like a Russian wrote it, a Russian probably did, and they're probably not working for the bank, you know? So think about those things. It's unbelievable. And so with that, let's talk about some of the things that you can do right now, and then we're gonna open this up for Q&A. But not comprehensive, but these are basically the critical things that we and CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, recommends. First things first, obviously review your passwords. We just literally went through what a good password is. You can't touch this 1990 exclamation point. Length is your best friend. On top of it, enable MFA on absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. I can't stress that enough. It's so unbelievably important. Every little thing you do to make yourself more secure makes you that much harder to hit. You don't go from 0 to Fort Knox in a day. So if you have a username and password and then you enable MFA, you're that much harder to hit. It's really that simple. On top of it, update everything. We buy things and then we use them till the wheels fall off and nobody updates them. And when we're doing internal assessments for corporations from small to massive, we find fleets of printers that we can hack into because they're all running like Linux 1.0 when they bought them back in 2009, and the printers still haven't died and they're not going to replace them. This happens all the time. True story, we got called into a company to do an assessment, and essentially we found a toaster in their break room connected to wireless so they could print things on bread. Literally, you could just send a picture to the toaster and it would print. That thing was the easiest thing to hack. We exfiltrated their entire HR database through their toaster into our secure server, and then when I walked in to do the final report, I was this close to printing part of that report on bread and handing it to their CEO, but I thought he'd think I was a total jerk, so I didn't do it, and I kind of regret it to this day. But a toaster in a break room connected to wireless, IT didn't even know it was there, for the record. They had no idea it was there. One of their sales guys found it in a shop in Beijing, China, or Shanghai, and just brought it back into the office, plugged it in. Good job, guy. Make sure everything that you can has threat detection. Make sure you have threat detection on everything that you can. Remember, your phones are not really phones. They happen to have the function of a phone. Mobile computers. They need threat detection just like Apple or Mac and Windows and Linux and anything else that you're doing. On top of it, double check your backups. Are your backups encrypted? The easiest way to ransom a company out is to slowly exfiltrate the backup and then mount it, and now you've got everything in one big nice file that you're slowly moving out of the network. Encrypt your backups. Do you have an on-site backup for quick recovery? Do you have a backup in the cloud in case the building burns down? Make sure you've got those things. On top of it, test your IoT to work online. Hilariously, millions of Nest owners could not heat nor cool their homes when Google's infrastructure went down. It was that connected to the internet. I have an Ecobee in my house. It's never been on wireless. It works if Ecobee doesn't. Make sure your IoT will actually function, because a lot of you have smart things in your home. I don't. The only smart thing I have that is connected would be a printer, and I have a gun next to the printer to shoot it if it makes a noise I don't like. Other than that, I have no IoT. I am not a smart house. I am an Amish house, but there's no going Amish in my life. So make sure everything can work offline. Super important, especially in some kind of outage. And for the love of God, don't use public Wi-Fi. Really don't. Foreign technology, all of those kinds of things. It is so unbelievably important. We are naturally curious. And we are growing a generation, and some of you are in the audience right now, where you just look at the environment around you and it's yours to use. The wireless is there for you. Well, you can literally see live wireless hacking demonstrations. I do live wireless hacking demonstrations because it's so flippin' easy. And when I'm in a group full of CEOs and they're at the official US pension fund conference or something like that, which I did like a month or two ago, I literally just set up a fake wireless called US pension fund. And what happens? Oh, I'm with the pension fund. This is my wireless. And I'm literally pull up Wireshark. I can show them everything that's moving on. This is how we hit companies. We hit an executive vice president, getting him on our fake wireless at a coffee shop. This is a true story. And basically, we had 3 minutes to get him. That's Starbucks policy. You walk in, you wait, you order your coffee, you wait, you get your coffee, you leave. 3 minutes per logistics. And essentially, what we were able to do is track him back in, because he got back into the office, connected to the wireless. Basically, our remote access Trojans went to work. We started cataloging everything through his phone. We're able to insert infections everywhere else, and then got into his calendar, tracked him via his GPS to the executive wing of the building, and then turned on his microphone and camera and recorded an entire board meeting. Played it back for their CEO. And the most annoying thing for that guy was that he was playing Bejeweled through most of it. You could literally see him. It was great. It was fun. The CEO was not happy. And we need to build herd immunity. The one silver lining I had in the pandemic is I no longer have to explain what on earth herd immunity is. But like an actual medical infection, we are all interconnected. We are connected through email and messaging and apps and everything else, which means we have the education, but everybody needs it. And like in regular herd immunity, if I can't get the measles vaccine and you all have it, I am protected, because as I interact with you and you interact with the world, with people that have it, you're not bringing it back to me. So everybody needs this education, whether it's friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives, bosses, employees, teachers, students, everybody. We are all interconnected. We all trust by default. And if you want a good example of that, go watch my 5 laws. And before we get to law number 3, you will see exactly what happens. I got an audience of about 1,000 to be completely fooled. We trust. And with that, are there any questions? We've got like 5 to 6 minutes for questions, but I'm here for a while, so please feel free to ask. Fun at parties. Please feel free to follow. I usually do daily stuff. I think today was on something. I don't know. I recorded a couple of days ago because I'm traveling. Questions, anyone?
Hey, Nick from In the Corner. Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
This is from our virtual audience.
Ah.
How does the dark web remain dark? Is there no visibility to lawmakers or law enforcement?
So the visibility that everybody has is essentially everybody catalogs it. Everybody searches. Everybody essentially, there's no Google for the dark web. And there's the camera. There's no Google for the dark web in that sense. Now people will Google, top dark websites for the day and all of that, but most intelligence agencies are building their own internal databases that allow them to track this kind of information. So if a dark web gang moves from website A to B to evade law enforcement, they're immediately on the hunt because they know that previous website's been defunct. So there's no easy answer to that, only in the sense that the dark web is specifically like the deep web is designed not to be searched. It's designed to be off the grid. And so what you're essentially doing is you're manually going through and checking that. Now, obviously you can automate those things to some extent, but again, there's no real Google for that. And that's actually a really good question. And I said, yes, the gentleman in the red shirt. I will not make a Star Trek joke now. Not that you'd probably get it. Anyway.
I was wondering, how would AI affect stuff like this? Like with the CEO impersonations, couldn't they impersonate the voice or their face and pretend for stuff like that?
So what you're talking about is the deep fake side of this?
Yeah.
Right. So what we have in security perpetually is a cat and mouse game, in the sense that they innovate, and we've caught deep fake audio and video cases where it's like, I swear to God, it wasn't me, and sure enough, it sounds exactly like the CEO or whoever's being impersonated. So I say that to say that is going to get more prolific because AI is vastly improved on this. I'll give you a perfect example of this. There's a Chinese disinformation campaign where they created an entire fake news agency that was basically just putting out pro-Chinese government propaganda called Wolf News, and it was 100% AI driven. Deep fake commentators, deep fake audio, video, everything was just 100% generated. And this was about 8 months ago, 6 months, it's 6 to 10 months ago. And you could kind of tell, okay, something's not right here. Now it looks amazing. So it's going to continue to improve. Now the flip side of that is they get to use AI, we get to use AI too. So what you have are basically detection systems that look for that. We've seen some hits and we've seen some misses. So for example, the writing detectors for AI, meaning the ones that the universities employ to detect if you're using ChatGPT, those actually don't really work well. There's a ton of false positives because it works basically on a system that basically is like a kind of like a humans have a variable wild component. Like it's like a complexity issue. No, it's not complexity, but it's a similar word. I can't think of it. But basically, think about this. They put the US Constitution through an AI writing detector and it flagged it as essentially plagiarized, as created by an artificial intelligence. The reason being is that we have very common sayings we use. So if I say, I want to have a cup of coffee, right? Tea, cup of water, something like that. We will see that over and over and over, millions and billions of times in writing across the world, right? The artificial intelligence will pick that up and say, oh, that's a very common thing, therefore an AI did it. So what we are developing on the other side is things that will go past that. So for deepfake audio, understanding, just is there something there that artifacts that are there that we can pick up? So that's constantly being worked at, and both sides are constantly improving. But it tends to be they're innovating something and we're responding, and we've always tried to be proactive. Like, so if you go to the RSA conference in San Francisco, there's a lot of companies that are trying to think, okay, what's it going to be in 5 years and how do I fix that issue? I'm actually in talks with one right now that's using that specifically for mobile phones, having an AI threat detection system for that for mobile phones. So it's coming. It's cat and mouse, but it's a very interesting field to get into. So get into it. Any other questions?
All right, last question, and then we're at time.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I was just wondering what is the multi-factor app that you use? Because our school is having us use Google Duo, and I was just wondering if there's any other ones that you use, what the best one is, basically.
Gotcha. So I mean, for identity access management, for let's say on the corporate side, there are really solid platforms out there like Okta, Ping, et cetera. But if you're looking for a personal multi-factor authentication app because I'm not a big fan of Google or Microsoft's default one, there's one by Twilio called Authy, A-U-T-H-Y, that works rather well. It's very flexible as well. So I've got it on my phone. I've got it on my laptop as a backup in case my phone, God forbid, gets lost or stolen. So that's one that I would probably recommend. But what we're hoping is there's going to be consumer-based identity access management providers out there that will do things like conditional access. So for example, my phone and my user, I'm from Chicago, state of Illinois. When I'm home, my logins only work in Illinois. Right now, they only work in California, specifically, I think, Southern California. And when I travel, it follows me. So if any one of my employees, let's say back home, tries to rip me off and log in as me, none of my logins work there for any of my business stuff. I was in Cambodia a month ago on business, and my logins only worked in Cambodia. They didn't even work in the United States. So that's what we're hoping to get. But in terms of basic MFA, multi-factor authentication, before that, Authy, A-U-T-H-Y, is the one I would recommend. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Nick Espinosa. Round of applause.
I'll be here for a while, so come say hi. Thank you.